During the British colonial period in India, cobras were overrun in Delhi, causing panic. The British government slapped its head and thought of a simple and crude method, offering a reward. Since there are many snakes, spend money on them. For every cobra you kill, the skin will be exchanged for the bounty. This logic sounds impeccable, right? If there are many snakes, kill the snakes and give money, and the number of snakes will decrease. Typical linear thinking turned out to be quite effective at first. Mountains of dead snakes were piled up, but it didn't take long for the government to realize something was wrong. More and more bounty money was given out, but why did it feel like there were no shortage of cobras in the city? It turns out that the local people found that instead of going to the wild to catch the biting things, they might as well raise them at home. As long as they feed the snakes some food, they can continuously withdraw money from the government. After the government discovered this bug, it angrily canceled the reward, and the people took a look. It was no longer profitable to raise this thing, and it also cost food, so I just released all the cobras raised at home. The end result is that there are more cobras in Delhi than before the bounty was placed. This is the classic Cobra effect. Don't think that people in the past were stupid, but the timeline has actually been moved to the present. We don't do this kind of thing too often. In order to alleviate traffic congestion, the roads were widened. As a result, more people were induced to buy cars, and the roads became even more congested. In order to protect an endangered animal, all its natural enemies were killed. As a result, the animals multiplied wildly, ate up all the turf, and eventually starved to death collectively. Why do we always fall into this vicious circle where the harder we work, the more unlucky we become? Howard Marks, the famous Wall Street investment guru, called this mode of thinking first-order thinking. To put it bluntly, mountains are mountains and water is water. When you see problema, you go straight to the most direct method B. But those real masters, or people who can survive in complex systems, have second-order thinking or even third-order thinking. They not only watch what you do, but they can also predict what the consequences will be after you do it, and even predict what you will predict. This sounds like a kind of metaphysics. Or I think this is purely IQ crushing, but in fact I found that things are far from that simple. This is not just a matter of intelligence, but behind it is actually written the underlying code of our human evolution. Let's start with the working mechanism of the brain. You may know that our brain only accounts for about 2% of our body weight, but when it is operating at full power, it consumes 20% of the energy of the body. In ancient times, when resources were extremely scarce and there was no meal left, energy was life. For our ancestors, thinking was an extremely luxurious thing. When there is a rustle in the grass, you don't need to think about whether it is the wind or a lion, and you don't need to predict what the lion will think if I run away. There's only one thing you have to do: run. Those primitive people who tried to think deeply and engage in second-order thinking while standing still. The genes have long been cut off in the lion's belly. So the theory of evolution has left us with a very significant physiological characteristic, which psychologists call cognitive misers. In other words, as long as it can stop thinking, the brain will never think. As long as it can be solved with intuition and instinct, the brain will never use reason. Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman called this system one in thinking, fast and slow. It reacts quickly, consumes low energy, and carries strong emotions and intuition. Most of us are actually taken over by this system most of the time. Going back to the Cobra effect just now, the reason why the British colonial officers came up with that bad idea was not because they were stupid, but because their system told him that as soon as there was a snake, it would be better to kill it. This kind of decision-making goes in a straight line in the brain, with the least resistance and the best feeling. But what is second-order thinking? It is anti-human. He forces you to stop, resist the urge to act immediately, and deduce the unseen consequences that have not yet happened. To the brain, it's like an old computer that suddenly wants to run the latest AAA masterpiece. The CPU is instantly overloaded. This kind of physiological discomfort and energy consumption is something we instinctively resist. So instead of saying that ordinary people are short-sighted, it is better to say that we are all locked in a power-saving mode by tens of thousands of years of evolution. And those so-called masters are actually a group of people who can forcibly overcome this biological instinct through acquired training, and overclock their brains. So how is this kind of overclocking achieved? In this society full of games, why can someone see through the situation at a glance? And some people can only be harvested leaks. In the following content, we will cut our perspective into the specific game mechanism to see how second-order thinking can reduce dimensions in reality. Speaking of games, whether it's life and death in the mall or the simplest rock, paper, scissors game, the core is actually just these few words: predict your prediction. Economist Keynes once proposed a very famous thought experiment called the beauty pageant game. The rules of this game are very simple. There are 100 photos of beauties published in the newspaper. Everyone can vote to choose the 6 most beautiful people among the 100. If the 6 people you choose happen to be the 6 most beautiful people selected by all the people who participated in the voting, you can share the grand prize. Please review this rule carefully. If you want to win, does your aesthetic matter? Not important at all. This is the trap that typical first-order thinkers will fall into. They will stare at the photo and think, "Oh, I like this one with big eyes, so choose him. And I also like the sweet smile, so choose him." This kind of person basically just gives away money. And what would players with second-order thinking think? He will completely block out his own aesthetics and think about what kind of face the public generally likes. What is the public standard of beauty? But it's not over yet. In this game, there must be higher-level players, the kind of masters we mentioned at the beginning. Their thinking has reached the 3rd or even 4th level. They will think that since everyone knows to guess the public's taste, other people will definitely choose those popular faces. So I can't choose what I think the public will like. I have to choose what the public thinks the public will like. This becomes an infinite Matryoshka doll. This mind game is evident in financial markets. Did the famous physicist Newton have a high enough IQ? During the South Sea Company bubble that year, Newton was also an early entrant and ran away after making a fortune. As a result, he found that all his friends were getting rich suddenly. The stock was still rising crazily. Newton looked at it and thought, "No, according to my calculations, the valuation of this company has long been outrageous." This is first-order thinking, but the market gave him a loud slap in the face. It doesn't matter if the valuation is outrageous. What matters is that everyone thinks that others will continue to buy. In the end, Newton couldn't bear to take over the market at a high position. As a result, the bubble burst and he lost everything. Newton later left a famous saying, "I can calculate the trajectory of celestial bodies, but I cannot calculate the madness of human nature." This sentence is actually only half correct. There is actually a very calm biological logic behind the madness of human nature. Simply put, our brains can simulate what another brain is thinking. This sounds like a standard feature of human beings, just like lying is as natural as our ability to lie since the age of 4. But the problem is that although our brains have this hardware, the software drivers are very backward. When we imitate others, we often have a huge bug called egocentric bias in psychology, which is that we too easily assume that the information we know is also known by others. To give a very common example, when you are giving directions to others, you often say, "Just go to that building and turn left when you see the red sign." The building and the red sign are very clear in your mind. You think you are using second-order thinking to think for him, but in fact you are just using your map to force it on his mind. This curse of knowledge is the biggest obstacle that prevents ordinary people from being promoted to masters. The reason why masters are masters is because they can detach themselves extremely coldly, and they can observe the public as a group like slices under a microscope. In their eyes, they are not participants, but rather bystanders. They know that the public is emotional, they know that the public is short-sighted, and they know that the public will be incited by simple stories. So the so-called prediction of your prediction is not because they can tell fortunes, but because they have overcome the ancient egocentric instinct engraved in their genes. They no longer see the world with their own eyes, but invoke the most energy-consuming function in the cerebral cortex, to build a mental model that is completely independent of your own preferences. But is having this ability necessarily a good thing? This leads to a deeper question. If everyone starts to use second-order thinking and everyone starts to predict each other, what will the society look like? Will we reach a perfect equilibrium, or will we end up in a more chaotic prisoner's dilemma? More importantly, is this kind of rational, cold calculation the ultimate form of our human evolution? I think the answer may not be that simple. Because in a world full of calculating smart people, we seem to be losing something more precious than IQ. Just imagine if everyone in this world was proficient in second-order thinking, and everyone became a master of calculating games, would the world become a better place? The answer may be very horrifying. It will be a hell where everyone lives extremely exhausted. It's like when we watch a movie in a cinema. The people in the first row stand up to see it more clearly. This is first-order thinking. In order not to block their view, people in the second row were also forced to stand up. This is second-order thinking. In the end, everyone in the audience had to stand to watch the movie. Everyone paid the price of being more tired than sitting, but they did not get a better viewing experience than the original one. This is what modern society often calls involution. When we are too superstitious about prediction and calculation, we actually fall into a prisoner's dilemma. Everyone thinks that he is the smartest rational person, and as a result, everyone's benefits are reduced to the lowest. So what will the real top players do after seeing through this layer? I have to mention a very famous computer simulation experiment here. In the 1980s, political scientist Robert Axelrod organized a tournament that repeated the prisoner's dilemma. He invited game theory experts, mathematicians, and psychologists from all over the world. Each person writes a computer program and lets these programs compete against each other. There is a particularly cunning traitor in the program who takes advantage of the other party's goodwill. There are also particularly sophisticated supercomputers who try to analyze their opponents' patterns through complex algorithms. But in the end, the program that won the championship was a program with the shortest code and the simplest logic. It was called tit for tat. His strategy was so simple that it was outrageous. The first step is to choose cooperation, which is to express goodwill. Starting from the second move, completely copy your opponent's previous move. If you cooperated in the last round, I will cooperate in this round. If you betrayed me last round, I will fight back immediately this round. This result shocked the academic community at the time. Everyone discovered that in this complex environment full of intrigues, calculations and counter-calculations, those complex programs that tried to take advantage by predicting your predictions ended up in a quagmire of mutual harm. On the contrary, this one does not stir up trouble first, but also has a bottom line. The silly and sweet strategy that was easy for others to understand had the last laugh. This actually reveals to us an ultimate paradox about second-order thinking. The most advanced second-order thinking is not to learn how to calculate others in a more complicated way, but to realize that the cost of calculation itself is too high. Think about it, everyone, if there is a person around you. When you are dealing with him, you must always be wary of whether he is hiding something behind his words, and you must predict whether he is digging a hole for you. Then the transaction costs for you to cooperate with him will be infinitely high. Over time, the best strategy is to stop playing with him. And those real bosses often show a kind of honesty that returns to nature. They are not stupid and don't know how to take advantage of first-order thinking. It's because they have seen through the situation, and their higher-order thinking knows that in a society where games are repeated, reliability and trust are the most efficient algorithms. So back to our original topic, why do we learn second-order thinking? It's not to make you become a paranoid person who has to show off your IQ in front of the grocery shopping ant, nor is it to make you treat your colleagues as NPCs in the legend of Xian Huan in the workplace. We learn second-order thinking in order to retain a sense of clarity when facing this complex world. When someone sells you anxiety, you can see the business behind it. When an emotion goes viral online, you can see how it's engineered. But more importantly, when you have this insight, you still dare to choose simplicity. Just like Romain Rolland's much-quoted words, there's only one true heroism in the world, and that is to still love life after recognizing the truth of life. Applying it to today's topic, I would like to say that there is only one truly top-level thinking in the world, and that is after seeing through all the tricks and calculations. Still choose to be a sincere and friendly, but prickly person. After all, no matter how precise the calculation is, it cannot calculate probability and time. Friendship and cooperation are the real reasons why our species has been able to make it all the way from the African savanna to where we are today. I hope that next time you make a decision, you can let the bullet fly for a while, but don't fly too fast and miss the scenery around you.